This weekend I will build and launch my own SaaS application. At least that's the plan. Okay, so let me explain. As with any good SaaS product, we first need a problem to solve. So here's my problem that I'm thinking could be solved with a simple SaaS application. So you know, YouTube has this video chapters feature, and what that means is that if you place a timestamp and title to the video description, you can jump to different parts in the video by clicking the timestamps or the video player timeline down there. Whenever I'm editing one of my videos, I use this software called Final Cut Pro. In the software, you can create these chapter markers. And what that basically is you can label a specific part of the video, kind of like a bookmark. I create and place these markers to the start of each section in the video, basically marking each chapter in the video. When I do this, I get this nice view in Final Cut Pro of all the chapters in my video. So here's where the problem comes in. So there is no easy way to transfer that chapter marker information from Final Cut Pro to the YouTube description and to that timestamp format that YouTube requires. So I have to manually type the timestamp and the title for each chapter to the YouTube description. Naturally, as a software developer, I'm allergic to manual work and I'm looking to automate everything I can. And this right here feels a lot like a task that could be automated. And that got me thinking that could I somehow transfer those chapter markers from Final Cut Pro to the YouTube description. And actually, after just a little bit of research, I found out that you can get an XML file out of Final Cut Pro where you have all kinds of information of your project or your video, and that includes also the chapter marker information. So in theory, if we have the chapter marker information in a structured format like XML, it should be possible to parse that information and then transform it to a format of our liking. So in this case, the YouTube description timestamps. So my plan is to create a single page application that you can upload the XML to and then parse that chapter marker information from that XML, transform it to the timestamp format and then display it so you can copy paste it to your YouTube description. I will use Next.js and MUI for this project, and I'm planning on handling the XML file upload with Next.js API route. That way we can do all the parsing and data transformation on the server and then just return that timestamp data to the browser. In the beginning of the video I said that I want to build this and deploy it in a weekend, so today is already Saturday, so we have less than 48 hours to actually build this and then deploy it. If that sounds doable, let me know by hitting the like button below. Now let me get back inside and let's start working on this. Before we get started on the coding, let me just show you the Final Cut part of this problem. So right here I have my Final Cut open, and you see these orange dots over here. They are the chapter markers. And if we click one, we can actually see it on the left hand side. All the chapter markers are displayed here. So right here we, for example, see that set default formatter chapter starts from minute 7 seconds. So this information right here is what we actually want to have as text, so we can copy paste it to our YouTube description. And we can export all the information of this project by going to the file and export XML. So let me just do that right now. So right here we have the exported XML open, and as you can see there is a bunch of information here, and there is also those chapter markers that were in the project. They are over here too. So what we want to do is parse this XML with our application and then convert these chapter markers and their start times and durations to actual timestamps and chapter titles that can be pasted in the YouTube description. So yeah, that's the XML file, and now I think I'm gonna just start working on the application, init a new Next.js project and then start coding this. So I'm gonna start with the file upload and go from there. Okay, so far we have been able to make the form for the XML file upload, and it's not pretty yet, but it's functioning, and we also created the API route for handling that file upload. And I'm able to actually send the XML file from the browser to the API route and then view the data or the XML inside that API route. So I think we made good progress so far. And next step will be to actually parse that XML, and I think I'm gonna actually convert that XML to JSON so it's a little bit easier to work with. But right now I've been working on this a couple hours, so I think I'm gonna head to the coffee shop to grab some coffee and maybe work from there for a while. Okay, so I just finished my tea and finished up working in the coffee house, and now I'm heading back home to probably do some coding for the evening and then call it a day. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you to Data.CMS for sponsoring this video. So Data.CMS is a headless CMS and it's really user and developer friendly. If we go to the datacms.com and look at the Why Data.CMS section, we can see they have a lot of interesting features. We could go through all of these, but we don't have time for that, so I'm just gonna point out one of my favorite features that they have, and that is the structured text. So they have this structured text format for storing rich text content. And with this, we get this nice medium-like editor inside Data.CMS that we can use to type out our content, and then that rich text content can be ported to JSON. And the best part of this is that if you're using Next.js or React in general, you can use their structured text React component to display your content. This component takes the JSON as a prop, and that's all you have to give for it, and it will handle displaying that content. So it's super easy to use. If you want to learn more about Data.CMS and how it works, well, first of all, check out their website, datacms.com, and secondly, make sure to check out my Next.js tutorials on how to build a blog. In those tutorials, we use Data.CMS as the headless CMS, and I will show you how to set it up from scratch. Thank you again, Data.CMS, for sponsoring this week's video. Okay, so I'm back home now, and I think I'm gonna try to get the chapter marker objects out of the JSON today, and tomorrow I'm gonna try to implement the calculation of those timestamps based on those chapter markers, and then maybe do some polishing on the UI, because right now it's just ugly form sending the XML. So I think that kind of stuff I will leave for tomorrow, and today just try to get the logic working for the XML parsing. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna hop in to do right now. Okay, so I just wrapped up things for today and I managed to get the chapter marker objects out of the XML and I actually started to work on calculating the timestamps, but it was more difficult than I expected and I couldn't figure it out right now. I did all kinds of equations with pen and paper and that kind of stuff because the format of those timestamps is a little bit confusing in the XML. But yeah, I'm super hungry now and I've been coding like I don't even know how many hours today. So I think it's a good time to call it a day and continue tomorrow. Okay, so a quick update. I did go to eat, as I said, and I had a nice evening. I watched a movie, but I kept having this thought in my head that how can I solve that, calculating those timestamps for the markers, the chapter markers. So what ended up happening was that I actually got back to the computer and started to fiddle around and do some testing. And right now the time is soon 3 at the night. So I'm happy to say that I cracked it. So I now get the timestamps for the chapter markers correctly from the XML. So I'm super happy that we managed to solve it today because I don't know if I could have slept if I didn't solve it. But for tomorrow we only have polishing up the UI or making the UI since it's pretty bad now, and then refactoring some code and making the code more error proof. I'm gonna go to bed now, so I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so it's a new day and yesterday was a bit long day as you saw from the last clip. Hold on, let me set this up. Actually, let's start with the Final Cut. So this is the Final Cut project that I have, and here these orange ones are the chapter markers that we want to extract, and you can see them on the left hand side down here. So I exported the XML file for this project, and then that XML file looks like this. So it's called this project FCPX the XML, and right here we have all the chapter marker information visible. So now our application looks like this. As I said, this is like just figuring out the functionality and not really looking good yet. That's something we need to do today. But now if we choose file and choose the project XML file and click the send server button, it will actually send that XML file to the API route we created, and then as a response it should return the timestamps as we can see here. So right here we get as a response a JSON array with a JSON object for each chapter marker and their timestamps. And if we scroll this a little bit and compare it to the Final Cut, we can see that the timestamps match with the correct markers. So for example, we have the 147 troubleshooting NVM installation, 147, like that. So right now the backend is working correctly and it is parsing the XML file and getting the chapter marker timestamps from there. And I gotta say, I thought it would be easier, but it actually was pretty hard to figure out the syntax of that XML file and how you can calculate the timestamp for each marker from the XML. But luckily, after many hours, I was able to figure it out and create the backend for it, and now that's done. So what is up for today? We still need to make this application to actually display these timestamps and the titles so that the user can copy them from the website and then make the website look better and more user-friendly. So pretty much implementing a nice design for this and then showing the data over here. I would say that yesterday's task was kind of harder, but it was also for me personally much more interesting because I really like to solve those kind of problems, even though it sometimes takes the whole night. But when it comes to designing and making a user-friendly UI, that's really not my strong suit, and I might even find it more difficult to figure out what kind of UI and that kind of stuff works best for this application. But yeah, after we implement the UI for this, I think we are ready to deploy this application, and I can say that the challenge is completed. So we were able to create a SaaS application in 1 weekend. But there's still a lot of work to do, so let's get into it.
Don't wanna play games out with the moves, don't wanna meditate, girl, with you it's hard. Fill in the blanks, text me back, throw me a kiss instead of them tricks. Don't make it hard. I wanna celebrate, you know, our togetherness, both mind and flesh. Only we know how it goes. We know how it goes. Our togetherness, both mind and flesh. We know how it goes. Way down low.
Okay, so after a couple of hours of coding the design and implementing it, and then tweaking the UI and all that kind of little things, I finally finished this site, and I think it looks pretty good right now, and it's ready for us to deploy to production and then buy a domain name for it, and then just launch the site and feel good for ourselves that we actually finished this project during this weekend. So let me show you how the finished app now looks like. Right here is the front page for it. So I added some app bar up top and then some images and text. So it's the FCPX chapter marker converter. I had so hard time coming up with the name for this, and this is like the best I could come up with. But let's just move forward. So this is what the site looks like. So there is the what is this section that's just giving a little bit of explanation what this site or application actually is. And then there is how does this work section that gives the instructions how to export the XML file from Final Cut Pro, and then how to use that XML file to get the timestamps out of it. So if we want to convert a XML file to the timestamps, all we have to do is click over here, select XML file. It will open up the dialog for selecting the file. Then I have this one export over here, and I'm going to select that, and once I click open, it will display a text area and highlight all the text, so it's ready for copying, and I can just hit Command C, and if I had YouTube open, I could paste it in to the description. And these timestamps are corresponding for the times or the chapter markers inside Final Cut Pro. So that's pretty much it. I think this looks good, and next step for me is to buy the domain name and actually first come up with the domain name, but after that I think I will deploy it to Vercel and host it over there. But I will come back to you once I got this application deployed to Vercel and the domain name bought. So I'll be right back. Okay, so the application is now deployed to Vercel, and we can access it with this kind of URL, and I tested it out and it's working perfectly. And I also purchased this domain name, chaptermarkers2timestamps.com. Couldn't come up with a better one. At least that's descriptive, even though it's a bit long, but it will do for now. The DNS servers weren't yet updated, so I'm assuming it will be working in the next 48 hours, and probably when this video is published it will be already up and running and the address will be working. Yeah, so as we saw, it's pretty interesting to build a whole SaaS application in one weekend. I was surprised how much work there was, and I thought it wouldn't probably take the whole weekend, but after all, because of those few mistakes and few problems we had with the XML file and converting the XML markers to timestamps, it took the whole weekend. The time is now like 7 p.m. soon or something, so it's already evening here, and I think I'm through with coding for this weekend because tomorrow I have a work day and I will be, surprise, coding there too. So I think I will take the rest of the night off and maybe watch a movie. But I really liked this format of me taking this kind of challenge and making this kind of video. And I would love to hear from you if you liked this video, was something you would want to see more of, or do you prefer just the tutorials or some other kind of format of my videos? So let me know in the comments about that. Hopefully you got something out of this video and you liked it. At least I had fun making it, so hopefully it was fun to watch also. So if you're not already, hit the subscribe button below and like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next video.